Hi, so I'm Kelly, this is Justin, and this is Dune. Dune just turned 1. We've been together for almost 15 years now, and this is just a little sort of about our story. You probably have already followed me on Instagram for a lot of years, Kelly Hill on Instagram, and kind of our crazy travel life. So we're kind of just gonna give our whole story on like how we got to basically where we are, how we met. We're high school sweethearts. And yeah, so we'll just dive into it because we've had a pretty crazy life. I didn't know that this is what I was setting up for, and it's better than I could have ever imagined.
And we're currently filming from Aguada, Puerto Rico.
We just put Dune down for a nap, so this will be a lot easier for us to film.
This is like take 3.
You've probably already following us on Instagram for the last 5 years or on TikTok, and we've lived a pretty crazy life, traveling the world, living in different places in the world, having like a little beach house that we Airbnb as well. And now we're here spending this month in Puerto Rico. So basically it all just started when I was 16 years old. Justin was 17, and we met in high school. We met at Young Life, which is a youth group. And I just, I certainly never thought, this cool blonde surfer guy who plays guitar at Young Life would talk to me, who is like very focused on school, like very just goody two shoes, straight A student. I mean, he's really smart too. He went to a smaller school. He was valedictorian from Friends School in Virginia Beach.
1 out of 4.
But yeah, I certainly never thought, he would notice me at all. I thought he had the most beautiful girlfriends, and, I just didn't think that he would ever talk to me. And that's how it started.
I don't know why you would think that.
I don't know. I just thought he was too cool for me. He was older. He was this cool senior.
I was 1 year older.
I thought it was a lot to me. Big deal. So then one day after Young Life, we would go to Burger King after Young Life, after the club every week, and Justin asked for my phone number in the parking lot of the Burger King.
As Kelly was departing, I decided I would run out as she was getting in her car and ask for her digits. I don't know if people really do that as much anymore. This was pre-Instagram. This was 2008. And and then I think I offered to teach you piano at some point, and you came over, and I had some ulterior motives there. It was a good piano lesson, I guess. But we kept hanging out for a few weeks. Then I think I asked you to be my girlfriend.
On the beach.
At night.
Yeah, it was at night on the beach.
In October, so it wasn't like a sunny beach day or anything.
Yeah.
But from there, we
started dating.
Had a nice, few months of dating. Then I got into Virginia Tech after getting rejected from the Coast Guard Academy and deciding not to go to Flagler, Florida. And Kelly had inspired me to apply to Virginia Tech. Maybe there was like 3 days left till the deadline, and thankfully it was a easy application process then. And it wound up committing to that. Kelly maybe thought it was going to end.
I thought that, I never thought we would date, I was like, he's this cool senior, we're just like hanging out, and then suddenly asked me to be his girlfriend. I'm like, okay, alright, well this will be cool. I'll date this like cool senior for a year, and he's gonna go to college, and then we're gonna break up, and that's like fine, like it'll be fun for a year. And then
but it didn't end. I saw no reason to.
No, he said to me, he was, because I was like, oh, you should go in state, kind of thinking like, okay, maybe if he's in state, like I might get to see him more, at least like in the summer or something. And then you say to me like that summer, you're like, so like, are you planning your visit to visit me in Virginia Tech? And I'm like, oh, I was thinking like, oh my gosh, wait, we're staying together, we're not breaking up. So then that started, and then I followed him to Virginia Tech. I mean, we were just super in love.
Which was, Kelly could have gone anywhere she wanted. She could have gone to Ivy League schools, but she decided to come to Blacksburg, which was awesome, and we had a great few years there together. We both
And I'm so glad that I did, because we ended up doing so many years of long distance still, and we went to the same college. So that was like a really, I'm so glad that, I followed my heart to do that. Because we still spent a lot of time apart. We've spent a lot of years living in different countries from each other. Justin studied abroad like 3 different times. He was in the Dominican Republic. He was in Spain. He was on semester at sea, which was a ship that took you around the world. I lived in Italy. So we always made it a point to save as much money as we could. We would work in the summers in Virginia Beach. If you don't know Virginia Beach, it's a tourist town. So we would both work in restaurants. He worked at a hotel too, and just save as much money as we could so that we could take trips. So we would take a trip in the summer to a new country, and then we would take a spring break trip. The summer that he was studying in Spain, I worked 2 restaurant jobs. I was working like 60 to 70 hours a week. I would like start at 6 a.m. at one restaurant, and then that closed at 2 because it was a breakfast place, and then I would go to the other restaurant. And anyways, I would just save as much money as possible so I could go then spend the rest of the summer in Europe with him. So that was just like, that was our time together, was traveling. So
that was college.
Yeah, college. And then
which we had a lot of great fall semesters in Blacksburg. Spring was always the time to study abroad. I studied abroad 2 springs out of my 4, because Blacksburg spring semester is not really spring, it's winter, and it's just bleak. They call it Bleaksburg because it's gloomy and cold.
But then you are graduating. And
yeah,
so again, long distance again.
2013 was graduation year, and this is where Puerto Rico comes into play, which my first trip to Puerto Rico was, I think, I was 16. I went with a couple friends. First time that our parents let us do anything on our own. We had an amazing time, great waves, and just fell in love with Latin culture and Puerto Rican culture specifically. So 2013, I think I had spring break in Puerto Rico and found out that one of my counselors from a boarding school in earlier high school years, he was starting a program in Puerto Rico for high school age kids. And so he hired me. I spoke decent Spanish at the time, okay Spanish at the time, passable I guess. Hopefully maybe it's better now. But I was sort of a counselor and mentor at the school in Puerto Rico from 2013 through 2014, teaching surf and paddleboarding and snorkeling and stuff like that. We had a very active water sports curriculum, which was awesome. Kelly came and visited a few times.
I skipped school. Thankfully, I was in good standing with my program.
You were an art student, so you were able to skip school.
I was in good standing, and because I would ask permission. I'd be like, "Hey, I'm going to visit my boyfriend in Puerto Rico. I won't be in class this week."
Yeah,
but they were fine with it.
Only art people would be cool with that.
That's my one lesson is like, you know what? I'm so glad that I didn't let thinking like, oh, I can't miss school for a week. Like, follow your heart. And I didn't let that stop me.
It's worth asking.
Yeah. It doesn't hurt to ask. And I skipped school for the week to come visit him. And, I still look back like, what an amazing week. I spent a whole month over winter break here with him.
Yeah. Thankfully,
it's worth
Virginia
it.
Tech gives off a month for Christmas.
For Christmas break. But it's just like, don't let these things that you think you need to be doing, like there are things that are so much more important in your life. So I'm just so glad that, I didn't let those things I think I need to be doing hold me back from like what ultimately was like going to make me happy. So it's my senior year and he's living in Puerto Rico, and we knew at this point, I thought maybe after I graduated college, we'd probably get engaged shortly after. But he surprised
after your
me.
first visit to Puerto Rico, which was September 2013, I had it in my mind that we would get married. So I think November of 2013, I made a very short, I think I lined up 4 days off in a row, flew back on a Thursday, didn't really sleep, met your mom, picked up the ring from the jewelry store, and drove 5 hours to Virginia Tech. And surprised you, one of the only successful times I've ever surprised Kelly. And
I thought I wouldn't see him until I came to visit him for Christmas. So
then we were engaged, and it was.
I was 21. He was 22.
Yeah, but the Puerto Rico job I had was amazing, but at the time I didn't see it suitable for being engaged and kind of starting off. And I thought I was groomed to go work in an office, and that's for whatever reason the notion that I had growing up. So after spending a little bit of time in Richmond, Virginia
I graduate college.
Yeah.
Then he moved from Puerto Rico when I graduated.
Yes, and we started off in Richmond still before we were married, but then quickly we visited New York, and a friend who was working at Yelp got me a job there.
One of my
sales.
best friends, a bunch of my best friends had all moved to New York, and so I was also really excited to potentially, follow them there too. We had a lot of friends.
We had people in New York City, so we moved up there and got married 2014, worked some office jobs, lived the crazy New York mid-20s lifestyle, which was super
years.
Fun, but super exhausting and draining after 3 years. The first year was just everything is new, everything's exciting. But, after a couple of years, the one-bedroom crumbling away old 100-year-old apartment, which was in the middle of Greenwich Village.
It was a great location.
It was awesome.
He could walk to his office. I walked to my office.
You walked 30 blocks.
I walked far,
which is insane.
I just liked walking in the city.
You love walking.
We loved living in the city, and I think it's one of those things I don't think we would be where we are today if it weren't for that, because it really it helped our careers a lot, but it also just opened our eyes to what actually mattered to us in a really short amount of time. My dad always says, if you can make it in New York, you can make it anywhere, and I feel like that just really expedited that for us. And I felt like we did that, but then it just opened our eyes to what was really important. I felt like we were working so hard, and we were doing really great at our jobs. We were advancing really quickly. We were just, for being so young, but we realized we're working so hard, and we're getting to go to brunch and do fun things with our friends on the weekends, but we weren't doing what was really important to us, which was travel and surfing.
The work culture, especially in New York, is very it feels like it's a sin to ask for vacation or something. So we didn't really go on a honeymoon, and
we had to wait for our honeymoon.
I kept feeling scared to take
any time off.
Yeah, we did do our honeymoon in Barbados, which was awesome. But I think
that was a starting point for us. That was where we're oh my gosh, we had been missing, something that made us feel like us, something that made us feel alive. And so after that, that's when we booked the ticket to Morocco.
Yeah, the turn of 2016 going into 2017, we kind of just felt like it was time to get out of the city, and we didn't want to keep paying New York rent and bills and stuff, so we were able to end our lease in New York, and we had a trip booked with friends to Morocco with two of my surf buddies.
We were still living in New York in 2016, and we kept saying we had booked that trip with them. And again, the pressure of Justin felt like he couldn't take off for work, and he'd only booked a one-way ticket because he's I want to take 2 weeks to go, but I don't know if I'll be able to take 2 weeks. And it's just that kind of mindset was just really I just feel like it wasn't healthy, and we just kept saying well, what if we don't come back? What if we don't come back? And so saying that for months, we're just it eventually turned into reality. Okay, no, we're gonna just not come back. We're gonna book these one-way tickets. So we had that planned for February. So starting after the new year, we booked a ticket to Costa Rica and Panama and spent the first, January, February there, and then went to Morocco. And we just started this. We had no end. We had no plan. We were just traveling. We had moved out of our apartment. We sold a bunch of stuff. We didn't have a home. It was the start of this new life for us, and it just felt so good. Justin quit his job. My employer actually wanted me to stay on, so that kind of started my now remote work journey I was working remotely still for my employer while we were traveling full time, and we didn't have a plan. We were just we're just gonna travel. And the thing is, we thought this was a once in a lifetime thing, and so that's how we approached it. We're we're never doing this again. This is only happening once. We're young, and we were just we realized like we need to take advantage of this while
I
we're
don't know
young.
if I really thought that.
I thought that. I was like, this is never happening again. Like, we're never going to just travel like this again. But I didn't want to, because of that, I didn't also want to, like, lose my job. So I kept working.
Travel like this is one thing. Yeah, I mean, it was the most sort of carefree because we pretty
didn't
much
have
had,
an apartment.
We pretty much had no bills at that time.
It was great. That was a great way.
We hadn't moved back into anything, but we were prepared to buy a place. So
that was like our next goal. So that kind of then the reason why it was the length of time that it was is because we then found a property in Virginia Beach that was steps from the beach that you could walk to the beach and surf. And we knew the area really well because Justin grew up in that neighborhood at the beach. So
mind you, this is, we had just left New York and we spent time traveling between Costa Rica and Panama. That was about 2 months. Then we made it to Morocco
spent a month there
with our couple friends, and Kelly's mom, who has been doing real estate for now like 30 years, had an eye out, you know, in the market for us, and you know, found this house as soon as it came available. And we did a FaceTime showing. I remember we stayed up late because of the time difference in Morocco, so her mom and dad could go show us the house.
On FaceTime.
And, you know, honestly, I didn't care what the house looked like.
We knew this location was good.
Yeah, it's only 4 blocks from where I grew up, and it's only a block from the beach.
And we knew that we would be able to Airbnb it because that was like our kind of next plan after leaving New York. We wanted to do short-term rentals. We always knew we wanted a house in Virginia Beach at the beach. So that was just like always part of one of our goals. So that was like the opportunity to come up, and we were tired of just spending so much money on our rent in New York. So it just
we bought the house from Morocco. We bought the house from Morocco.
Sight unseen, only through FaceTime. We never stepped foot in it.
Came back April of 2017. Moved, you know, we moved into our house and spent essentially a year getting it ready,
fixing it up because it's old.
Slowly getting it ready to be a rental property. Then the following 3 years, we had a really successful run of doing
Airbnb.
short-term rentals, and then, you know, spending time at the house, normally in the winter months when it's not great to rent during that time.
So guys, remember, if you don't know Virginia Beach, it's a vacation town, and people have been renting houses. I think that's why we jumped on Airbnb so early, because this was 2017, going into 2018. You know, Airbnb, I feel like it was just the insiders that were, like, people who were, like, okay with being the first to, like, start this. We knew that, like, Virginia Beach had always, we grew up there, and we knew people always rented vacation homes during the summer. So we already knew the market there and knew it would be successful. So yeah, the next 3 years we spent traveling. We had Airbnb the house. We were working remotely. I still kept my remote job for many years. And so it was just kind of facilitating our lifestyle of being able to travel, but still have a home base, still building equity in a home. So it all just kind of like functioned really well together.
So that was good for a few years. We traveled many places, rented the house out, came back. Then eventually maybe Kelly some, but I was sort of tired of just bouncing around and, you know, doing a lot of different jobs and not really focusing on one particular thing. So we got it. I got it in my mind that I would try and find some sort of project or thing to like commit to and work on a little bit more long term. We were heading to Richmond in 2019 on New Year's Eve, I think.
To visit family.
Yeah, to visit some family. And I had my resume somewhere online, and a guy in China had hit me up, found my resume, and, you know, proposed that I come teach English in China. And that opened our, you know, eyes to, this teaching English thing, I mean, that's a good way and to be able to sort of travel but also work. And generally if you take a a teaching job somewhere, normally they provide your
Apartment.
accommodations. So
and it gets you
worked
a
well.
visa. The other thing is, we had been wanting to travel more in Asia, but it is really far coming from the east coast of the U.S. And that was another benefit of like, oh, we could then have a visa for an entire year, be based in somewhere in Asia, and be able to travel through Asia, and just it'd be a lot easier to do that. Have an apartment, then we could rent out our house for the whole year. Or like do the Airbnb for the summer and then have a long-term tenant for the winter, which is common in Virginia Beach to do if you are at the oceanfront.
So we
that's
stumbled upon Korea
Yeah.
as we were driving to Richmond that day, and I sent my resume to a teacher recruiter in Korea, and he responded positively, and he kept sending me jobs in different places in Korea, and there was this job near Changwon, and I researched Changwon. Seemed like a cool city in the south, kind of near some beaches, near the big city of Busan, and wound up taking that job as COVID was starting, though. So, went to Washington, D.C., got all my visa stuff done, and then COVID starts. My contract started the beginning of March 2020, so everyone was freaking out. Our friends and family were telling us, no, don't go, don't do this. But I had already gone through so much trouble to arrange this. We still went, and it was an awesome year. It was definitely, a different experience than we had anticipated with COVID.
It was a lot better, I think, for us being in Korea than if we had stayed home. I felt like we got to still, even though we didn't get to have completely the experience we had planned for, again, with always, plans don't go to how you plan them, but let things happen. So we didn't get to like travel over Asia in between, on our breaks and whatever. But it did allow us to live abroad together and live in Korea and experience that and have this whole new experience in a time when people couldn't be traveling. So it's like I felt like we were still getting that experience. And we wouldn't have had that if we had stayed back. So I'm so glad that we did that. And it just was really great, Korea. We have so many new friends there.
Yeah.
I really suggested it. He was teaching and I was working remotely. And it was such a great thing for us. And of course we hoped, after his contract teaching ended, that then we would then travel through the rest of Asia or wherever else we wanted to travel, but still with the time in the world, everything was, we weren't able to, so we had to reevaluate and change our plan of what we were doing.
My contract ended March of 21, and all these cool, awesome South Pacific islands that we wanted to visit, they were all still closed, and like Australia's still closed. Pretty much everywhere around Korea was closed. Everywhere in that hemisphere.
Yeah.
Almost everywhere in the world still. But of course, Mexico is still open for business. I love Mexico. And
so we decided to go to Mexico.
Yeah, found a one-way flight. There was a flight from Seoul to Mexico City nonstop, which ran every Monday, I think.
Yeah, there was only one a week.
And it was really expensive, but it was worth it. I mean, it was like a 14-hour flight.
So then we go and spend the next few months in Mexico.
Yeah.
We were based in this town that had been on my bucket list for years called Sayulita. And it was such a great place to be based in Mexico. And so we spent the next few months based there. We traveled all up and down the coast, the western coast of Mexico.
We made more, lifelong friends in our 2 months in Mexico as well, which was awesome.
3 months.
And got some really good waves and really good food, and it's very affordable and
really affordable place to live
there. So that was March through May of 21, and we had a couple friends, both the first of our close friends to announce that couples that they were pregnant. While we were in Mexico. This is April. We came home in May of 21, and about 2 weeks after we got home, what happened?
We found out that I'm pregnant. So we hadn't seen our family in, well over a year, and all of our friends in Virginia Beach, and, so we knew that we would go back that summer to Virginia Beach after Mexico. But we find out when I go back that I am also pregnant. so we decide, okay, let's just move back into our house instead of, because we didn't know what we would do necessarily if we're going to Airbnb. We decide let's move back, which I'm so glad. Now that I was pregnant, I'm like, I'm so glad we have a house that like we own, that we can just decide to move back into. Like that was a great sense of relief. So I'm just like so happy with a lot of decisions. You know, we've made a lot of not great decisions in our life, but that's one that I'm like, I'm so glad we made that decision, to have this house, that, you know, doubles as it can be something that we can rent, but also something we chose to move back into while I was pregnant. And then once we had Dune, it just like was one less thing I felt like I needed to worry about while pregnant with him. And so moved back in and spent the next, you know, 8 months, you know, we did nesting, but also, you know, kind of fixing up the house even more and doing a few trips and stuff. And then brings us to 2022 and Dune is born, and, you know, we've just been navigating that for the last year. He just turned 1. We've done a bunch of trips with him now, and we're just
this Puerto Rico trip with Dune is the first trip we're doing for us as a family.
Yeah, I feel like
our other trips have been either friends, weddings, or family.
Yeah, the last year has been interesting in the fact that I think it's just a time of our life. I just turned 30 last year. Justin turned 31. And it's just like basically so many of our best friends were either having babies or getting married. So there was just a lot happening in our personal life all last year. We took a lot of trips, but pretty much most of them were based around like wedding related things of our best friends, bachelorettes, or celebrating, you know, our friends expanding their family. There's just, so we've done a lot of trips with June, but it's all personal. So when we booked this trip to Puerto Rico, it's like kind of been our first trip that we've just booked as like for our family.
Which was also a different set of circumstances, because we booked this trip. We booked a week in Puerto Rico with friends back in September. So this trip has been planned just for a week in February. They're all coming soon.
And again, we're like, let's go for longer.
A lot of...
This tends to be a theme with us.
Well, a lot of certain life circumstances, you know, like I did have a full-time job, 2022. I was
remotely.
Working, yes, a full-time remote job. I was working from home, and the layoffs in the tech industry trickled down to my company. I was a recruiter for software engineers. Unfortunately, I was part of the layoffs right before Christmas. And
I mean, tens of thousands of people in the tech industry have all been laid off.
So we decided we would come for a month instead of just a week. And we're, you know, definitely on a budget. I think we're staying up in the hills, like not in the town of Rincon where I used to live and work. We used to party a lot there. But we're up in the country, you know, very affordable. I think it's like $40 a night where we're staying right now. Mm-hmm. You know, we've got a rental car for a month, cooking lots of food, bringing our packed lunches to the beach.
Which has been, it's honestly so much better with having Dune kind of you know, we're just kind of operating in a different way now as we travel. And I think that's an approach we like taking when we travel, is we like a more like feeling like you're living there approach versus like go itinerary, hotel, eat out, everything. Like that's like slow travel is a lot more our pace, and it definitely goes really well with having Dune with us too, is that slow travel approach.
Yeah, it's tough to bounce around with a baby.
Now
it's 2023 now.
Here we are. We're back, so that's how we got to where we are. And
2023 is the year of focusing, well, I mean, you know, Dune was born just over a year ago, and it's, there's no, I mean, I'm sure there are guidebooks, but parenting is an adventure, and I've learned that, for me, prioritizing my own mental health is going to be the biggest thing in becoming a successful father, and, you know, us being good parents to Dune. So I think on New Year's Day of this year, it's not, you know, just a New Year's resolution or something. It's committing to a better lifestyle where I'm prioritizing my mental health and that's the way that I'm going to be a good father to Dune. And you know, I don't know exactly what's next as far as I don't know, balancing finances and work and trying to you know, raise Dune and keep everyone happy and positive. But I know that the cornerstone is my own mental health, because without that I'm not going to be very useful to anyone else.
So that's, we actually, before we came on this trip, we made a list of like goals and what we want to focus on, and that's kind of like our theme this year, is that physical and mental health, and that being like kind of the building blocks and foundation, because we have a lot of goals that have been on our list for many years, since we first got engaged, basically. And it's just, you're not going to accomplish those things if you're lacking. We've just found like your foundation of your mental health and your physical health, like that is the most important thing in order to accomplish all these other goals of where you want to go with your life. And we're just focused more on kind of, you know, we want to just live like a nice life with raising Dune.
Well, we've had a lot of fun over the last decade. You know, we've traveled a lot, done a lot of crazy things,
which we're really glad we did before Dune.
Yeah. But I mean, everyone is inherently selfish, and there's nothing wrong with doing fun stuff and, you know, being selfish and doing just what you want to do. But you don't have a baby and then wake up the next day and you're suddenly this like selfless great parent. It has taken some learning, and there's like a lag. You know, I wish I could have been more prepared and taken better care of myself before having a kid. But you know, I guess it's better late than never. But now I really see that it's, you know, over 50% of our time for sure is dedicated to making sure Dune is healthy and alive and happy, and yeah, you can't do that if you're living this lifestyle of where it's all about me. You know, I want to go surf, I want to get the best waves, I want to go out to dinner, I want to go out to the bar. You know, that part of life is over, and it's taken time to accept that that's in the past, and now it's a new lifestyle.
So that's kind of why we're sharing this, you know, our story, and kind of the things we'll be sharing on this channel is our, you know, lifestyle that's focused on, you know, our health, our mental health, physical, doing positive things, you know, exploring, you know, the world and showing it to Dune, and just like our family, you know, we do a lot of, you know, like fun cooking and beach and surfing still, and so we're going to be sharing a lot of that, you know, more like vlog style of where we go as a family and what we're doing as a family. So that's what you can expect to see here on this channel. So if that's of interest to you, make sure you subscribe. And I know we covered a lot today. I mean, we've been together for almost 15 years now. But if you have any questions about, you know, any part of it, whether it was like starting our jobs in New York or how teaching Korea, whatever questions you have, just leave them below and we can make other videos about that. But we're so happy you're here if you made it to the end of this, because I know this is a really long story because we have a lot of history. But leave any questions, and we hope to see you hear more in of our videos. We're gonna do some really cool stuff, I know. So we can't wait to share it with you and what we do as a family. So thank you, and we will see you next time. We've got more stuff coming from Puerto Rico, so
all right,
see ya.
See you later.